In Venezuela, 9 narco planes were disabled by the Bolivarian Armed Forces, bringing the total to 39 so far in 2025. And in Honduras, the President of Parliament requested a rigorous investigation into the electoral body. Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum toured the care centers where victims of the railway accident are being treated, pledging comprehensive assistance for the injured and their families. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the fight against drug trafficking continues. 9 foreign narco planes were disabled by the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, bringing the total to 39 so far in 2025. That is the only confirmed attack in the country. The report with Madeline Garcia.
This is how the Bolivarian National Armed Forces showed the disabling of narco plane number 31 in 2025, in a pure state on the border with Colombia. It was camouflaged among the trees. Hours later, another heavy blow against drug trafficking was reported by the Strategic Operational Command. It involved another 8 narco planes.
Our military aviation, which never rests, in Amazonas state near the border with Brazil, our beloved military aviation and our brave pilots eliminated, in accordance with the law, 8 drug trafficking aircrafts.
Eliminaron, de acuerdo a la ley, 8 aeronaves del narcotráfico para llegar a 39.
Reaching a total of 39 aircraft this year and 430 since we began with this law to combat drug trafficking in the sovereign territory and airspace of Venezuela.
Territorio y espacio soberano y sagrado de Venezuela.
And thus the only attack in Venezuela was confirmed during President Nicolas Maduro's visit to a commune. He sent a message to the world.
We would be creating a great productive communication movement, which is the greatest shield so that the world knows that Venezuela wants peace. Venezuela does not want violence, nor does it want war. What Venezuela wants is to produce.
Venezuela lo que quiere es producir.
At the same time, the company Primazol, dedicated to the import and commercialization of chemical supplies for the past 14 years, located in Zulia on the border with Colombia, amid rumors, denied that it had been the victim of an attack. On December 24, an industrial incident caused a fire that was brought under control by the firefighters. Meanwhile, the United States continues bombing boats in the Pacific in its alleged fight against drug trafficking. This time it killed 2 people who were labeled as narco-terrorists, without evidence and without trial, just like the more than 100 others exterminated by the Trump administration. As the year 2025 draws to a close, the country continues on its path, and peace keeps gaining ground.
Madeline Garcia, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro led a visit on Monday to the agricultural commune for love and loyalty to Chavez, located in Caracas, where he recognized the work of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces in defending the country and its fight against drug trafficking. In this sense, President Maduro reiterated that Venezuela wants peace in order to continue developing and become a major food-producing powerhouse. The head of state highlighted the productive capacity achieved by the country in a short period of time. In this regard, the head of state pointed out that the nation is planning management strategies to reduce imports and encourage the profitability of national resources in response to the economic blockade perpetrated by the United States. In Colombia, President Gustavo Petro defended the wage increase in response to attacks from far-right sectors. The Colombian president appeared at the parade grounds of the General José María Córdoba Cadet School, where he referred to the recent acts of violence in Aguachica, Cesar, and other parts of the country, while also defending the government's wage decree. The measure, described by progressive sectors as historic, was reaffirmed by the president as a commitment to the dignity of work and the well-being of those whose efforts sustain the nation. In this regard, as he stated during the original announcement, the increase in the vital minimum wage represents a bet on social justice and labor dignity.
They will say that this will lead to unemployment, but so far, all the statistic data we have shown the opposite. The higher the minimum wage rises, the lower unemployment becomes.
Van a decir que los empresarios no van a poder sostenerse y van a quebrar.
They will argue that business will not be able to cope and will go bankrupt because they have to pay workers more. However, Colombia's historical data, at least census figures have been measured, show that when we are real increases in wages, particularly the minimum wage, the overall effect has been positive.
Reales del salario en general del vital ahora.
In fact, during the 1960s, Colombia had the highest minimum wage in all Latin America.
El mayor de todos los países.
The United States Southern Command confirmed the execution of a new lethal attack against a vessel in international waters of the Eastern Pacific under the pretext of combating drug trafficking. The strike, ordered by War Secretary Pete Hegseth and executed by Joint Task Force Southern Spear, left at least 2 people dead. Analysts point to this new attack, which took place outside of its territorial jurisdiction, as another serious violation of international law by resorting to the use of lethal force in international waters and without the approval of multilateral organizations. Critical organizations and voices warn that these actions, far from resolving structural problems, normalize violence and the extrajudicial use of force. And Haiti's Provisional Electoral Council confirmed on Monday that the first round of presidential and legislative elections in the country will be held on August 30th, 2026. The announcement comes despite changes made by the Presidential Transition Council to the draft electoral decree. The organization clarified that the timeline remains in effect, although its implementation will depend on minimum security and financing conditions throughout the national territory, currently affected by the presence of armed groups and institutional fragility. We now have a first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Monday in Honduras, Luis Redondo, President of Parliament, described the performance of the electoral body as a disaster and a national disgrace and requested a rigorous investigation from the public ministry. The legislator once again presented evidence that would constitute clear electoral fraud, such as proof of vote manipulation, inconsistencies in records, and administrative decisions he described as illegal. He clarified that the complaints have already been submitted to the Public Prosecutor's Office with the necessary documentation and requested a transparent and independent investigation of the entire process. Coinciding with the complaint, Councilor Marlon Ochoa published on his social media a series of records showing that in the Central District of the Libre Party defeated the National Party by an overwhelming margin. The National Electoral Council of Honduras agreed to carry out a special scrutiny in 65 municipal corporations following numerous complaints and irregularities recorded in the democratic process of November 30th. Through a statement, the Honduran electoral body specified half of the special verification and recount board established must undertake the special scrutiny of the 65 municipal corporations described in the report from 1 to 3 and from 5 to 66. The other half must conduct the special scrutiny of the municipality of the Central District, number 4 on the list. Finally, the document stated greater rigor must be ensured in aspects of maintaining order, coordinating individualized attention to the tables with the greatest foreseeable conflict, coupled with the execution of firm actions in the event of a breakdown in the proper relationship between the members of the special verification and recount boards as representatives of the political parties, and even between them and the employees of the National Electoral Council. In this sense, the Libre Party declared that it will not recognize the shared results of the November 30th election and call on the population to a permanent peaceful insurrection. The Libre Party called on its members and Honduran citizens to remain vigilant and active in the post-election process and to support the mayor of Tegucigalpa, Jorge Aldana. In this context, Aldana denounced the fact that the National Electoral Council has not yet counted all the votes in the Central District. In this regard, the Libre Party candidate Rizzi Moncada urged for support for Jorge Aldana's mayoral victory in the capital. Moncada accused the authorities of electoral fraud and of violating the Constitution, stating that they mocked the people by failing to guarantee transparency in the process.
These data are the truth. These data come from the National Electoral Council, and they fully coincide with our own computing center. We are in victory. But today we want to tell you, dear people of the capital, members of our Libre Party, today we clearly state that we will not recognize any result unless the 430 tally sheets are counted. Furthermore, I invite you to entrench ourselves in a permanent peaceful insurrection until the last vote is counted. Long live Libre!
Also in Honduras, supporters of the Liberty and Refoundation Party mobilized to demand respect for the popular will expressed in the elections of November 30th following the irregularities that occurred in the democratic process.
Of course, we are going to vote in all instances, exercising all the legitimate rights that belong to us as sovereign people, making sure that our legitimate decision expressed on November 30th at the polls is respected. We are here in this call just hours before knowing what decision the councillor will make, so that we can always remain in the struggle that characterizes liberty and refoundation, always reaffirming ourselves and defending the most sacred interests of the Honduran people. This time also before the people of the capital.
One by one we have counted the records. Vote by vote we have counted our records that we keep in our bunker, and it is not possible that they are taking away Aldana's victory. Now they are taking too much time to give tomorrow a verdict that is not correct, and we are giving them the opportunity, so that later they do not regret it.
We stay in Honduras as the presidential candidate for the Libre Party, Liberal Party, Salvador Nasrallah, challenged the official general election results after the candidate for the National Party, Nasri Asfura, was declared the winner on December 24th. Candidate Nasrallah alleged fraud and requested a full recount of the votes, arguing that the election process was marked by irregularities. The difference in the results between the Liberal Party and the National Party was approximately 27,000 votes, with Nasrallah obtaining 39.5% and his opponent 40.3%. The situation is further complicated by the interference of U.S. President Donald Trump, who granted a pardon to the former Honduran president, a member of the allegedly winning party, Juan Orlando Hernandez, a convicted drug trafficker. We have now our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, go away. Welcome back. The UN Security Council rejects Israel's recognition of Somaliland, as most members fear the move is linked to the forced displacement of Palestinians. 14 of the 15 members of the UN Security Council on Monday condemned Israel's decision to recognize the breakaway region of Somaliland. In this context, during an emergency session, Somalia's ambassador described the move as an act of aggression that could destabilize the Horn of Africa. Also during the session, the Arab League and Pakistan warned that the decision may be linked to a plan to forcibly relocate Palestinians from Gaza to the region. It's important to highlight that the United States was the only council member not to condemn the move, although it reiterated that it does not recognize Somaliland.
Mr. President, A3 Plus strongly condemns the flagrant assault by Israel on the unity and the territorial integrity of Somalia by recognizing as an independent entity to the northwestern region of Somalia, so-called Somaliland, which is legally incapable of entering into any agreement or arrangement or recognition with another country.
A team of Mexican scientists has created the first three-dimensional map of the interior of the Popocatépetl volcano to analyze the activity of this geological giant and prevent eruptions that could affect millions of people. Let's see more details in the following work.
The group, composed of geologists and volcanologists from the Autonomous University of Mexico, completed a 5-year expedition to understand the seismic and volcanic activity of Popocatépetl, one of the most active and largest volcanoes in the world, with around 25 million people living within a 100 kilometers radius.
What's exciting about Popocatépetl really, it is its sheer majesty, how immense it is. You don't climb to more than 4,000 meters every day.
The key to the project was the use of artificial intelligence. Using specialized algorithms, the team processed seismic data to construct an internal image of the colossus, a task that had not been achieved with this level of precision until now. To achieve this, researchers expanded the network of seismographs from 12 to 22 stations around the volcano. These devices record every vibration in the ground, generating a massive amount of data on the movement of rocks, gases, and magma.
This effort I precisely aimed to starting to gather this information and building a database that allows for intensive processing so we can better understand how the volcano works. We just carried out the first three-dimensional seismic tomography that reaches depths up to 18 kilometers.
Researcher Karen Rodriguez is aware of the danger and complications involved in carrying out a project of this magnitude, but her motivation for her profession and her desire to save millions of lives led her to become part of this great effort.
I've always liked mountains, and now volcanoes too. Being so close is a really rewarding experience. We usually work with data and focus on analyzing it, and when you come to Popocatépetl, you see how those signals are actually recorded, you even hear them. The explosions, for example, that's something you just don't get when you're sitting in the office. Being here, you have to deal with the weather, the physical exhaustion, hauling the equipment, and that makes you appreciate the data much more.
According to opinions from the scientific community, the university's general mapping represents a milestone in the region, and a completely new way of recognizing active geological bodies, which could revolutionize the field of global volcanology.
Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum toured the care centers where victims of the railway accident are being treated, pledging comprehensive assistance for the injured and their families. The state authorities, led by the Attorney General's office, carried out an investigation to determine the causes of the accident in the southern state of Oaxaca. The president visited those affected. In this context, Sheinbaum reported that the National Commission for Victims, federal welfare workers known as Servidores de la Nación, and the Oaxaca state government have been deployed to ensure care and support for the victims. The president also announced an initial payment of 30,000 pesos, just over 1,400 euros, for the injured and their families, and once again expressed her condolences for the 13 people who lost their lives in the tragedy.
We were at the ISTE in Tehuantepec, now at the INTE in Segunda Cruci, and now we are at the INS in Salina Cruz. There is a representative from the Victims Commission who is assisting, and also staff from the state and the servants of the nation. An initial support will be given to all the families minus 30,000 pesos will be provided to each person. This is just so they don't have to cover expenses in the next 1 or 2 days. Support is being given for funerals and everything else needed to help the families, and we will remain in contact with them until the prosecutor's office can determine the causes as soon as possible.
In this regard, the government began on Monday the forensic investigation in the area where the train derailment occurred. The Attorney General's office has secured the site while its agents, Federal Investigative Police, and experts conduct interviews with witnesses and victims, as well as inspections of both the accident site and the train. Specialists are also collecting and analyzing evidence to prepare the corresponding reports. The Attorney General's office emphasized that the priority is to clarify the causes of the accident through a scientifically rigorous investigation, placing the victims at the center of the process. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.